Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. They said the alien girl was done, but one human held her hand and stayed in the medbay of Orpheus Station, tucked like a stubborn barnacle onto the edge of a decaying red dwarf. The air smelled faintly of ozone, antiseptic, and burnt coffee. The latter thanks to Liam Cade's morning attempt to enhance morale with what he insisted was a vintage Terran brew method, but looked suspiciously like pouring jet fuel over charcoal. He muttered something about artisan bitterness as the medbot quietly deposited the cup into a biohazard container. The lights overhead flickered, casting jittery shadows across the rows of sterile beds. Most were empty, always a good sign aboard a scientific outpost, but one bed at the far end remained occupied. A figure lay motionless beneath the polymer mesh of a stabilization field. She looked human, almost painfully so, but with details that betrayed her origin. Her ears swept back in elegant, elongated arcs, like the tips of ancient leaves caught mid-curl. Her skin, a cool lavender gray, shimmered slightly when the light caught it just right, as if her body hadn't quite made peace with this dimension. She was alien, and she was dying. The medical team had run every scan, synthesized every treatment, and exhausted every protocol listed under unknown xenospecies female variant. They'd poked, prodded, and projected, then finally shrugged in unison and declared she had no more than a few hours left. Whatever biological system kept her running had been shredded in the crash. Internal resonance failure, neural lattice decay, quantum soul fatigue. Liam had stopped understanding the jargon after catastrophic. "She's not stabilizing," said Dr. Tamarin, the chief of diagnostics, looking at her console like it had personally offended her. Her neural feedback loop collapsed again. "We've got nothing left to try that wouldn't violate 17 interstellar accords and probably result in us accidentally inventing time travel with her spleen." "She's not conscious," added another medic. "Not really. Probably hasn't been since the crash. Her body's fading." The last word hung in the air like static. Fading. Liam stood at the foot of her bed, hands in the pockets of his slightly singed lab coat. He'd come here originally just to deliver a replacement stasis cartridge, but something in her stillness made him stop. Something in the way her hand lay, half-curled, as if she'd meant to hold something and missed it. "Is she alone?" he asked. "Technically, no," said Tamarin, sighing, "but she might as well be." That night, when the lights dimmed to night cycle and the medbay went quiet, Liam came back. He brought an old folding chair, a questionable thermos of something labeled peppermint nutrient sludge, and a small handheld projector that looped vintage Terran cartoons. He sat beside her, stared at the softly pulsing blue field around her body, and took a long, dramatic sip. "I know what you're thinking," he said aloud, glancing her way. "Why's this guy sitting next to my coma pod with a thermos that smells like toothpaste and regret?" "Fair question." She didn't answer, obviously, but that didn't stop him. "I've been told I talk too much," he said, settling into the chair. "So you're officially my captive audience? Feel special." He began to talk about everything, about how the coffee machine had achieved sentience last week and tried to unionize with the food replicators, about the way Orpheus Station creaked when the artificial gravity fluctuated, like an old space whale with indigestion, about the little terrarium he kept in his lab where algae grew in geometric shapes no one could explain. He told her stories, some true, some embellished, some entirely fabricated for the benefit of seeing if maybe, just maybe, her eyelids would twitch. They didn't. Still, he kept coming back, night after night. Some people coped with silence. Liam filled it with sarcasm and trivia. Her name, he learned from the logs salvaged from the wreckage, was classified in an unreadable script, but the phonetic translation had been rendered as Raya. He liked it. Rhymed with seaweed if you said it wrong, which was a fun discovery during one very long, very sleep-deprived shift. "Raya," he said one night, "you've got the worst luck. Crashed on a research station full of caffeinated nerds who think romantic ambiance is fluorescent lighting and spore cultures." He paused, looking at her fingers, long, delicate, unmoving. "I know you probably can't hear me," he continued, But if you can, if there's even a molecule in there listening, I just want you to know I'm not going anywhere." He reached out and took her hand. It was cool, softer than he expected, like silk dipped in frost. The moment stretched. Somewhere machinery hummed. The projector looped back to the start. Outside, the stars continued their endless, slow dance across the black. Then, barely noticeable, her index finger twitched. Liam froze. He stared, heart hammering. "Did you? Was that you?" No response. The machines didn't register anything. No change in vitals. No data spike. He laughed quietly, a breathless sound. "Okay, okay. Either I imagined that, or you just high-fived me with a single finger, in which case very rude." He stayed there all night, hand in hers, projector light flickering softly across the floor, like fireflies from a world neither of them remembered. And the next night, he came again. The medbay had rules, posted ones, blinking ones. A holographic orb even floated near the door to remind staff not to bring in open liquids, unauthorized life forms, or personal drama exceeding a level 2 severity rating. Liam Cade had broken at least 5 rules just by walking in that night with a hot mug, a music chip labeled Lounge Lizard Classics, and a battered sketch pad he claimed helped him process cosmic emotional dissonance. Technically, none of the higher-ups had told him to stop visiting Rhea, but they also hadn't expected him to set up what amounted to a social club beside her life support bed. "You can't just live here," Dr. Tamarin had said that morning, eyeing his makeshift corner like it might spontaneously sprout beanbags and incense. "I'm not living here," Liam replied. "I'm haunting it. Very different energy." Tamarin rubbed her temples and walked away, muttering something about reassessing her career choices. Now during second night cycle, when most of Orpheus Station was powered down to conserve reactor draw, Liam sat back in his chair, propped his feet on a low diagnostic console, also technically against rules, and addressed Raya like she'd just walked into a coffee shop and not spent the past 11 days technically brain dead. "Today," he said grandly, "I am going to tell you the story of the sentient mold colony that applied for a romantic partnership license." He paused dramatically as if the silence could appreciate the comedic timing. "You're going to love it. Spoiler alert, mold is bad at poetry." She still didn't respond. Not with words, not with another finger twitch. But Liam swore her expression had shifted by half a micrometer. Probably wishful thinking. But it was just enough fuel for the monologue engine to keep running. He told her about his own background. Planet hopping since he was 16, the accidental lab fire that made him allergic to 5 types of protein, and his unofficial title as Orpheus Station's Chief of Questionable Morale. He described spacewalks gone wrong, near hallucinatory data anomalies, and the time the station AI, Nora, had mistaken a love song for a distress signal and launched a full evacuation protocol mid-Valentine's karaoke night. "Trust me," he said, swirling what was left of his drink. "You've never known fear until you've seen 100 scientists running for their lives to the tune of Can't Help Falling in Love." Nora's voice chimed in then, dry and vaguely judgmental. "Your anecdote is at best an embellishment and at worst a total fabrication. Mr. Cade not helping, Nora. My prime directive is not helping, it is efficiency." Liam rolled his eyes and turned back to Rhea. "See what I deal with?" He glanced down at her hand again. No movement, but he didn't let go. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the sketch pad. The first few pages were nonsense. Doodles of space whales, a flowchart titled, "Should You Lick That?" The answer was always no, and a half-finished comic strip involving a very muscular jellyfish named Carl. But deeper in the pages were images of Rhea. Not exactly as she was. Liam wasn't that good, but fragments. The curve of her ear, the glimmer in her skin. A star pattern he'd imagined decorating her cheek, like war paint made of constellations. "I hope you don't mind," he said softly, showing her one of the drawings. "You look like someone who deserved to be remembered, not logged." That hit harder than he meant it to. He coughed and shifted gears. "Anyway," he said, trying to lighten the air, "if you ever do wake up, we'll have to talk fashion. I mean, your outfit's all sleek alien armor and elegant mystery, and I look like a lab exploded on me." Which it did, twice. In the same week. He smiled at her. The faintest sound echoed back. Then something changed, not in her, but in the room. A hum, a subtle shift in frequency, like the station's systems hiccuping out of sync. The lights flickered. Monitors reset, glitching for a second before stabilizing. Raya's vitals, displayed as unfamiliar waveforms and non-human resonance spikes, stuttered, then ticked slightly upward. Liam sat up straight. Wait, did you feel that? Nora's voice returned, more focused now. External gravitational field fluctuation detected, a minor anomaly in local spacetime. Could it be related to her? Unknown. However, her resonance matrix briefly synced with the anomaly before normalizing. Liam looked at Raya's face, still serene, still unmoving. I'm going to take that as a yes, he whispered. He stayed beside her for another hour, until the lights settled and the hum faded. Then he leaned forward, resting his elbow near hers. You know, he said quieter now, you're kind of killing my record here. Most people warm up to me in less than a week. No response, but he swore her pulse, whatever passed for a pulse, had settled into a rhythm that felt familiar now, calmer, anchored. You're not done, he told her. Not even close. Before leaving for the night, Liam placed the sketchpad at her bedside. On the last page, he'd written a note. Don't worry, I'm still here. Also, Nora keeps trying to scan your ears. Might want to establish boundaries when you wake up. He grinned to himself, turned off the projector, and slipped out into the corridor, unaware that the waveform on her vitals blinked once, like a heart caught in the middle of a decision. The third time Rhea opened her eyes, it was barely for a second, not long enough to say anything, not long enough to be sure it had even happened. But Liam saw it, or thought he did, and immediately spilled half a cup of synth chocolate on his lap in surprise. Nope, that was a blink, he said, hopping in place, trying to shake hot liquid off his pants without looking like he was mid-interpretive dance. I saw that. You blinked. I don't care what the monitor says. You're definitely more conscious than I am before my second cup. Rhea didn't blink again, of course. The medbay's lights hummed overhead. The same steady rise and fall of her biometrics filled the room. The machine still labeled her status as non-responsive. But Liam, seated beside her in his usual chair, had a new kind of restlessness about him now. A growing certainty that her recovery wasn't just possible, it had already begun. For the first time, he realized she wasn't just surviving. She was listening. All right then, he said, brushing his damp pants with as much dignity as one can, while seated next to a patient in a coma. Story time's getting an upgrade. No more sad war stories or cafeteria gossip. From now on, we're going full science fiction. Buckle up, long ears. He launched into a tale about the time he accidentally got locked inside a vacuum-sealed analysis chamber with a 6-foot telepathic octopus. According to Liam, the octopus didn't like being compared to Earth's seafood and had tried to sue the station's culinary AI for slander. He mimed the tentacles, gave the octopus a French accent for no reason. And when the medbay's auto cleaner trundled past during his climax, he pointed and shouted, There! That's the traitor! Raya's monitors beeped, softly, almost shyly. A slight shift in her blood chemistry. NORA noticed. Subject 117's neuroactivity has increased by 0.04%. Consistent with mild environmental stimulation. Liam pumped a fist. Boom! That's what you get when you weaponize dad jokes. I was unaware humor was a valid treatment protocol. You've obviously never seen the stand-up performed during radiation therapy. You're fabricating again. I call it creative medicine. But despite the banter, something real was shifting. Over the next 2 days, Raya began responding to sensory input. Barely at first. Her eyelids fluttered under REM states. Her hand twitched not just once, but twice. The alien curves of her biorhythms began to stabilize. Dr. Tamaron chalked it up to residual neural loops. She's not conscious. Don't let your optimism get ahead of the data. But Liam had stopped relying on the data. Instead, he trusted the way Raya's fingers curled slightly toward his when he held her hand. The way her face no longer looked so still, more like someone sleeping deeply instead of someone slipping away. He started bringing her things, Not just the projector anymore, but sounds, songs from Earth, recordings of wind blowing across Martian plains, the rhythmic call of whales beneath Europa's frozen seas. Each one he introduced gently, explaining it first. This one, he said, playing a tinny melody on a loop, is called lo-fi. It's designed for introspective sadness while pretending to study. She didn't laugh. Not yet. But she stirred. On the fourth day, she opened her eyes again, and this time, they stayed open. Silver, not metallic, not artificial, but something deeper, like starlight condensed into fluid. They blinked once, twice. Her lips parted. A sound escaped, just a breath, a whisper of syllables Liam didn't understand, sung in a melody that made his chest tighten and loosen at once. "Hey," he said softly, leaning in. "You're back." She tried to sit up. Her body didn't obey. "Easy," he said, adjusting the support field with a wave of his wrist. Gravity's not a fan of sudden comebacks. Her eyes scanned the room. They lingered on the ceiling, the diagnostic readouts, the small collection of things Liam had left by her bedside, the sketch pad, the old music chip, a crumpled note that read, "Still here." Also, Nora's still judging us both. "Raya," Liam said, pointing to her and then tapping his chest. "Liam." She blinked again. He tried tapping his chest. "Liam," then pointed at her. "You?" She looked at him for a long time, and then placed a hand, shaky but deliberate, on her own chest. "Raya," she said. Her voice was soft, like wind across sand, but it held the same cadence as his, mimicking, learning. He grinned. "Well, hello there, Raya." She frowned slightly as if trying to parse the word hello into something meaningful. Nora chimed again, more alert than usual. "Neural activity at 18% and rising. Subject is exhibiting adaptive mimicry and active memory processing." "She's not just back," Liam whispered. "She's decoding us." That night, Raya didn't sleep. She watched the projector silently as it played ancient cartoons of rubber-limbed animals chasing each other across impossible landscapes. At one point, she raised a finger toward the screen and looked at Liam. He leaned over. "That's a rabbit, and the other guy's either a coyote or someone who needs therapy." She didn't seem entirely convinced, but when the cartoon ended and he turned it off, she touched his hand again, just briefly, and for the first time Liam didn't speak. He just stayed still. This time, it was her who didn't let go. It turned out Raya wasn't just waking up, she was rebooting. Liam had seen recovery before, in humans. The sluggish return of language, the slow reintegration of muscle control, the fog lifting one tentative hour at a time. But Raya wasn't following the rules. Her mind didn't creep forward. It surged in jumps and glimmers, as if parts of her were catching up to themselves out of order. Some mornings she was as silent and motionless as the day she'd arrived. Other times her eyes would flash wide open and she'd babble in her language, syllables that sounded like soft crystal breaking underwater, before collapsing into stillness again. Liam did what any qualified, underprepared scientist would do. He winged it. "Okay, new hypothesis," he told her one afternoon, pacing in front of her bed. "You're actually a quantum-powered jukebox from another galaxy, and I just haven't found the right coin to make you sing." Raya raised an eyebrow. "Progress." "Oh, you can move your face now," Liam said, pointing. "That's either skepticism or digestion. Honestly hard to tell with aliens." She mimicked the gesture, badly. Her hand flopped to the side like a noodle with ambition. Liam gave her a thumbs up. 10 out of 10. Would be mildly threatened by your body language again." Behind them, Nora's voice emerged from a ceiling panel, filtered through the usual electronic disdain. "Mr. Cade, I must remind you that your interactions are being recorded for long-term xenopsychological study." "Perfect. Then future civilizations will know that sarcasm saved lives." She has mimicked over 200 of your vocal patterns, including 11 nonsense phrases and 3 inadvisable dance moves. Liam clutched his chest. "She speaks fluent me. I've peaked." Raya tilted her head, a motion Liam had come to recognize as the prelude to either confusion or a sneeze. Instead, she spoke. "Liam." He froze. She'd said it before once, but now it was clear, articulated with meaning. Her voice still carried the strange, echoing softness of a signal not meant for human ears. But she said his name like a question, like a test. He smiled. Yes, that's me. Liam, you're Rhea. And this, he waved at the med bay and the cluster of blinking consoles, is the least glamorous hotel in the quadrant. Rhea blinked slowly, processing. Then after a long pause, she placed a finger to her temple. Her eyes lost focus, going slightly glassy. Liam had seen this before, when she'd first made contact. A mental projection, a memory broadcast. He stepped closer, cautiously. You okay? She reached toward him and touched the center of his forehead. The medbay vanished. For a moment, Liam stood inside someone else's mind. Raya's. He saw a sun he didn't recognize. Blue and enormous, too close for comfort. Beneath it stretched a silver sea, pulsing in rhythmic tides like a sleeping animal's breath. Floating above the water were towers, living things, organic and sleek, connected by strands of bioluminescent thread that shifted in color as thoughts passed through them. Then came the screams, ships falling from the sky, fire without heat, creatures, tall, faceless, wrapped in black, descending like phantoms from orbit. He felt Raya's fear, not just remembered, but relived. The stampede through corridors, the final surge of engines in the escape vessel, the crushing silence as her world fell behind her, piece by glowing piece. And then, her arrival, alone, crashing into cold metal, surrounded by unfamiliar machines and sterile air. Then nothing, until a voice. His voice. The memory faded. Liam gasped as the medbay snapped back into place. He blinked, chest heaving. That was... wow. Okay, you could have warned me. Maybe dimmed the lights, played some soft music? Raya looked at him, her expression unreadable. That was your home, he said softly now. Wasn't it? She nodded once. I'm sorry, Liam added after a beat, that you had to leave it behind, that no one was there when you landed. Rhea frowned. You were there. That stunned him. Yeah, he murmured. I guess I was. She paused again, considering something. Then, you stayed. Her accent was strange, consonants stretched, vowels warped, but the meaning landed with perfect clarity. Liam chuckled, but it sounded different now, smaller, like he was a bit afraid of the weight behind her words. Someone had to keep you company. You didn't even have a decent playlist. She tilted her head again, but this time her eyes crinkled at the edges. It was a smile, a very small one. Almost not there, but it was real. Later that evening, Liam wheeled in a portable synthesizer and placed it on the table beside her. He'd reprogrammed it to create tactile sound waves, vibrations she could feel in her fingertips. This, he said, is Terran music. Some of it is good, some of it makes you question the existence of art. He placed her hand on the edge of the panel, played a low, slow jazz line, something smoky and quiet. Rhea closed her eyes. She tapped one finger, then another. She wasn't just listening. She was memorizing the rhythm, adapting to it, a fusion of alien memory and human noise. And for the first time, the station's logs recorded her heart rate aligning, not to her species' biological patterns, but to Liam's music. They didn't say anything else that night, but they stayed. And between them, the silence began to sound a little like healing. The anomaly first appeared on day 26. It came without drama, no alarms, no sudden flashes of cosmic doom. Just a flicker in the long-range scanner array during a maintenance sweep. A ghost signal, a ripple. The kind of thing that usually got dismissed as static or some lonely exoplanet sneezing in the void. But Nora didn't dismiss it. Unregistered quantum echo detected, she said flatly over the medbay intercom as Liam was attempting, unsuccessfully, to balance a spoon on his nose for Rhea's amusement. Approximately 0.004 light-years out. Directional origin, unknown. Signal repeats at irregular intervals, suggesting entropy decay pattern. Liam blinked and lowered the spoon. Entropy decay? That's not ominous at all. Should I cancel tonight's alien language flashcard hour, or just assume we'll be vaporized halfway through? Uncertain, NORA replied, though the probability of vaporization has risen 0.7%. Great. Can't wait to tell Raya. She loves a good percentage. Raya, seated upright now with a stabilizer unit gently cradling her spine, was improving by the day. Her speech was coming in bursts, choppy, broken sentences that flickered between English and her native tongue, often punctuated with gestures and odd glances toward corners of the room as if she were listening to echoes no one else could hear. She had learned to smile more, too. Not just mimicry now, real ones. When Liam made fun of his own hair, "There's a black hole growing in it, I swear," she'd laugh in short, delighted gasps that sounded like someone shaking a glass wind chime. But when the anomaly was mentioned, that joy evaporated. She stiffened, eyes sharpening. Her pupils, normally silver pools of calm, tightened like star matter folding inward. "What is it?" Liam asked. "Do you know something?" Raya stared at the hollow screen as the anomaly's pulse pattern repeated again. Then she whispered a word, one he'd heard in fragments before, but never with that tone. "Chisari," he frowned. "That the name of your people?" She shook her head. "Number the ones chasing." The medbay got quieter somehow. Liam glanced toward the terminal. Nora cross-referenced that term in all known xenolinguistic databases. Negative match. No known language includes Chisari. Phonetic structure suggests ancient root-based syntax, likely predating most standard galactic tongues. Liam turned back to Raya. "You're telling me this signal, this anomaly thing, it's from them?" She nodded once, slowly, and then she stood. It was unsteady. Her knees buckled slightly, but she rose, by herself. She walked to the hollow screen and placed a hand on the pulse pattern. Her fingers shimmered faintly against the display, and for the first time, Liam realized her skin wasn't just reflecting light. It was interacting with it, bending it in ways that defied standard physics. She was reacting to more than sound and heat. She was tuned to something else. "They hunt survivors," she said at last, enunciating each syllable like walking across a broken bridge. "My people, not many left. Vaults hidden, maps scattered. I am one." "One what?" Liam asked. He stood now too, gently moving closer. "A survivor? A messenger?" She hesitated. "Key." There was something in that word that cracked the air. Liam blinked. "You mean, you're like a genetic passcode?" She turned to face him. "Encoded in me. Biosymbiotic memory, cultural library, buried. Like a data drive that bleeds if you drop it," he muttered, then added, "Sorry, bad joke." Raya didn't smile this time. She tapped the screen again. The pulse pattern repeated. This time, Liam could hear it faintly through the speakers, low, vibrating tones that sounded almost like breathing or weeping. "They come when one wakes," Raya said. "When signal breaks silence. You think they picked up your presence?" She didn't respond, because she didn't need to. Liam turned toward the scanner logs. The signal was stronger now, no longer faint. Nora spoke again, her voice lacking its usual clinical indifference. "Object entering system perimeter. Velocity, subluminal. Configuration, non-standard. No formal transponder code." A ship. A ship that wasn't supposed to be there. A chill ran down Liam's spine. Not from fear exactly, but from the recognition that whatever quiet miracle had been happening in this medbay was now no longer hidden. Something else had found it. He looked at Raya. "You think they're here for you?" She nodded once, slowly. He looked down at her trembling hands. And then he said, "Okay. So, what do we do now?" She stared at the scanner feed, then whispered, "Run." He blinked. "I was afraid you'd say that." And for the first time since she'd awakened, her smile returned. Wider, sharper. Not a happy one. A war-born one. "Then run fast," she said. Liam always assumed that when his life took a sharp turn into danger, there'd be dramatic music, flashing lights, maybe a slow-motion sprint down a hallway. Instead, when the unknown ship breached Orpheus Station's outer perimeter, The emergency alert came with a dull chime and a scrolling message on the hallway walls that read, "Please evacuate in an orderly manner. Try not to scream." Somewhere in the distance, someone screamed anyway. Humans. Predictably unreliable under pressure. "Okay," Liam muttered as he jogged back into the med bay with two armfuls of equipment. "We're skipping slow and jumping straight to the part where everything falls apart." Raya was already standing, dressed in a stitched-together uniform Liam had borrowed from hydroponics and adjusted with what could generously be called creative tailoring. She looked taller now, more composed. There was something coiled beneath her calm, a readiness Liam hadn't seen before. He tossed her a small device. "Transonic field key. Might come in handy if we hit a locked door and can't find the button." She caught it one-handed. "You should not have this." "I agree. Don't tell the AI." "I heard that," Nora chimed in. The hallway outside the medbay was pulsing with red light now. Emergency Protocol Level 3. Containment breach pending. The unknown vessel hadn't fired a shot. It hadn't responded to any hails. It just docked. Or rather, it merged. Nora had shown Liam the visuals. Tendrils of some dark alloy, neither metal nor organic, but something in between, snaking from the alien ship, latching onto Orpheus Station like Ivy searching for a heartbeat. It was quiet, deliberate, no explosions, no fanfare, just unwanted intimacy. Liam and Raya slipped into the auxiliary maintenance tunnels, the low-ceiling crawl spaces used mostly by repair drones and those trying to avoid performance reviews. He led the way, ducking beneath a power conduit with a sharp hum and occasional sparks. "We could just talk to them," Liam offered, though his tone made it clear even he wasn't sold on the idea. Raya shook her head. "No voices, only hunt." "Right. So, not exactly a warm diplomatic outreach then." The deeper they moved into the station, the quieter it became. Nora rerouted them away from main corridors, claiming operational ambiguity was their best defense. That and not breathing too loudly. "They're moving through the eastern wing," Nora said, her voice now restricted to Liam's earpiece. "Their physical forms are unclear. Readings fluctuate, either cloaked, partially phased, or biologically incompatible with our sensors." "Great," Liam muttered. "Stealth ninjas made of math." "Possibly." Wasn't a compliment. Rhea paused at an intersection, placing her palm against the wall. A ripple of blue light pulsed from her fingers, spreading like ink in water. The ship reacted, metal groaning, systems flickering. "What are you doing?" Liam asked, eyes wide. "Listening," she said. "To what?" "Space remembers," she whispered, as if the answer should be obvious. "This place does not want them here." Before he could ask what she meant, the lights overhead shuddered and died. Everything fell into darkness, thick, absolute. Liam reached out on instinct and felt her hand find his first. A second later, the emergency backlights flickered to life in soft blue strips along the floor. "See," he said, keeping his voice light. "We make a good team. You're the mystical alien key to galactic secrets, and I'm the guy who panics and brings snacks." "Snack guy is important," Rhea replied deadpan. He looked at her. "You're joking now? We're officially under siege by faceless beings, and you're developing a sense of humor?" She raised an eyebrow. "Good timing, yes? Terrible, but I respect the commitment." They reached the lab sector, the one Liam had practically lived in before the crash. It had a back exit to the shuttle bay. If they could reach it, they could grab an evac pod. Not a glamorous escape, but it beat getting absorbed by a techno-nightmare. Except the lab wasn't empty. Two figures stood there. Tall, silent, wrong. Not wearing armor, not cloaked, just existing where nothing should. Their surfaces were matte black, absorbing every drop of light, as if they weren't just cloaked in darkness. They were the absence of being. Rhea stopped. The air tightened. One of the beings turned its head. No face, no eyes, just smooth curvature where meaning should be. It raised a hand and took one slow, deliberate step forward. Liam stepped in front of Rhea. "I'm probably not the weapon you were expecting," he said, "but I do bite when cornered." The creature didn't respond. Instead, it released a low vibration, almost inaudible. but Liam felt it in his spine. Raya stepped forward now, brushing his arm gently. She held up both palms and sang. It wasn't a song by human standards. No melody, no language. Just a frequency, a tone that pierced the silence like a line drawn in air. The creatures froze. For one suspended moment, nothing moved. Then, without warning, they turned and melted into the walls. Literally, their forms dissolved into fluid shadows, slipping between panels and disappearing into the architecture like phantoms embarrassed to have been seen. Liam stared, jaw slack. That's a neat trick. Raya's breath was shallow. They test. They do not strike until sure. So they're shy invaders. That's new. We go now, she said. He nodded. No more quips. Together they ran, and behind them, the station exhaled, like it knew something ancient had just been invited inside. The shuttle Liam chose wasn't the fastest. It wasn't even listed on the official manifest anymore, mostly because it had failed every performance test except the one labeled, technically doesn't explode, but it had a working drive, intact pressure seals, and just enough shielding to make unauthorized departure only slightly suicidal. Plus, it was close. He and Raya ducked beneath the bulkhead of Hangar C, breath ragged, her steps growing uneven from exertion. Whatever energy she'd poured into that sonic deflection back in the lab, it had cost her. Her skin shimmered faintly now, not with the usual calm glow, but like a wire held just shy of overload. Still, she kept pace, her hand in his, her eyes alert, scanning shadows before they even moved. The hangar bay was eerily still. Emergency lights blinked red across rows of unused vessels, most wrapped in maintenance webs. No crew, no guards, just silence, and the constant, unspoken weight of being watched. Liam opened the launch hatch with a stolen access chip and whispered, "Okay, here's the part where we don't die. Try to look optimistic." "Trying," Raya said, her voice barely audible. Once inside, they sealed the hatch behind them. The old shuttle hummed to life with an irritated growl, like a cat woken from cryostasis. The console blinked uncertainly, cycling through dozens of warning diagnostics as if it, too, had doubts about this escape plan. Nora's voice crackled through the ship's comms. "Unauthorized launch sequence detected." "Yeah, thanks," Liam muttered. "We noticed." There was a pause, then, "Security override granted." "Good luck, Mr. Cade." Liam blinked. "Wait, really? I'm reclassifying your status as emergency courier under Clause 27F. That's not a real clause." "It is now." Before he could thank her, the comms cut. He turned toward Raya, who had strapped herself into the co-pilot seat with practiced efficiency. She'd been in a ship like this before. Maybe not this model, maybe not this exact design, but close enough that her hands knew where to reach. Her fingers hovered above the display, reacting faster than Liam could process. "Subspace field ready," she said. "Trajectory, not ideal." "Define not ideal." She glanced at him. "We may fold into wrong region." "Define wrong region." "Dead space, or the inside of a planet." He paused, then shrugged. "Statistically, those are still better than getting eaten by reality-phasing shadow monsters." She didn't correct him. The engines warmed. The launch clamps released. Liam guided the shuttle out of the hangar on manual, fingers twitching with nerves. Outside, Orpheus Station looked different, less like a research post and more like a living thing, tangled in dark, pulsing vines. The alien ship had fully docked now. It was no longer a visitor. It had become a parasite. The tendrils stretched across the station's hull like veins, connecting to communication arrays, fusion venting shafts, even the gravitation stabilizers. The whole structure pulsed faintly, like it had a heartbeat of its own now. "Do you think they'll chase us?" Liam asked. "They don't chase," Raya said. "They follow. Different. Semantics. Either way, I'd like to stay unaccompanied." She glanced out the viewport, her face unreadable. "They're not after just me." Liam hesitated. "What do you mean?" "I'm not the only key." The words landed like cold metal. Raya turned to him slowly. "There were others. Seeds. hidden in many places. We were scattered to protect the vault, to preserve memory. How many others? I don't know. I only know this. When one wakes, the signal begins. And the Chasari come, Liam finished. She nodded. The shuttle jolted suddenly. The outer hull shimmered. Static burst across the panels. We're being pinged, Liam said, fingers flying across the console. Long-range scan. That ship's trying to tag our trajectory. They won't let us go. Then we don't go where they expect. Raya looked at him. You're altering the coordinates. Oh yeah, we're going rogue. You know what you're doing? Not even a little. The subspace core pulsed behind them. With a sharp whine, the shuttle shuddered and launched into fold space. No star trails, no lightspeed flare. Just a sudden, absolute shift. And then, black. The world vanished. They were nowhere. Fold space, unlike its name, didn't resemble a fold at all. It was more like being between pages. The stars were gone. Sound didn't exist. Every gauge Liam relied on turned into gibberish. And in the middle of it all, the ship's internal lights dimmed. Rhea reached out, placing her hand on the wall. Her skin shimmered again, and the power flickered back on. Barely. You stabilized us, he whispered. I aligned the field. Slightly. He shook his head, grinning despite himself. I've got to learn how you do that. No, she said. You should not. They sat in silence for a while, the hum of the core the only sound. Then Rhea spoke again, softly. Why did you stay? Liam looked at her. I mean, at the station, in the medbay. Why didn't you leave like the others? He thought about it, then shrugged. You were alone, hurt. Everyone said you were gone, but something in me didn't believe them. I figured if you had even the smallest chance, someone should be there. She looked down at her hands. That changed me. Liam blinked. What? My people do not bond easily, she said. Connection is chosen, scarce. We evolved to guard memory, not emotion. But I remember you. Liam swallowed. Well, that's extremely flattering and mildly terrifying. Raya's expression didn't change, but her eyes softened. Good. He didn't speak again for a long moment. Then the proximity alert went off. Liam jumped. Oh no, don't tell me. But it was already too late. Something had followed them, something that had learned how to. The edge of fold space shimmered and cracked. And just like that, they weren't alone anymore. Fold space was not supposed to be crowded. By every theory Liam had half read and misquoted, it was a transitory medium, a place between places, where causality hiccuped and distance bent its knees for convenience. But when the shimmering edge of unreality cracked like glass and something entered, the theory books promptly caught fire in his mind. The entity didn't burst into the shuttle. It didn't claw or shoot or shout. It simply was, pressing against the boundaries of the ship's gravitic bubble like fog on a windshield, formless yet aware. Raya's breath hitched the moment it arrived. She didn't look afraid exactly, more like she'd recognized an old injury coming back in a different form. It's not a full one, she whispered, voice low. Only a fragment, a scout, but still dangerous. Liam stared at the shifting mass beyond the viewport, its shape refusing to settle. How do we shake off a ghost in space? You don't, she said. You outrun it. Or give it something it doesn't want. He blinked. Like a lecture on quantum ethics? She almost smiled. Almost. But then she stood, stepped toward the rear of the shuttle where the core pulsed faintly, and extended both hands toward the wall. The metal responded, not like a machine, but like a skin reacting to its own heartbeat. Her fingertips sparked. Liam moved to stop her, then hesitated. There was something ancient in her posture, something ceremonial. What are you doing? He asked. Changing the note, she said. He blinked. The what now? They track frequency, memory. We must confuse the trail. Liam rubbed his temple. So, a decoy? A signal. I will alter the echo they follow. Misdirection through resonance. Liam looked at the core diagnostics. That might destabilize the drive. Yes, she said calmly, but only briefly. You must hold it together. Me? I'm barely holding myself together. Her voice softened. But you stayed. You hold on. That's your gift. He wanted to argue, to make a joke, to say something flippant like, gift is a strong word, but he didn't. Instead, he nodded, took the co-pilot seat, placed his palms on the interface and synced with the old ship's nervous system. Raya began. The frequency she released was unlike anything the shuttle had ever processed. It wasn't music or language. It was a memory-made sound, a harmony that carried emotion, not through tone, but through intention. It echoed with loss and distance, with the cold brilliance of her sun and the final breath of her planet. It shimmered with goodbye, and then, layered over it, came something else. Liam's voice, clumsy, rambling. From one of the first nights beside her bed, telling the story of the singing octopus and the jellyfish bar fight. Her memory of him had imprinted too. The core surged. The fold space rippled and screamed. The entity flinched, then retreated. The ship bucked once, violently. The nav array sparked. Liam gritted his teeth, fingers white-knuckled on the controls. Rhea collapsed beside him, breath ragged, eyes still glowing faintly with residual light. The shuttle broke from fold space like a bird hatching from its shell. They tumbled into real space above a pale, quiet moon, orbiting a gas giant whose rings shimmered with ice and debris. No signals, no threats. Just the sound of cooling metal and a slowly stabilizing heartbeat from the core. Liam exhaled. Well, that was either heroism or mutual space madness. Raya didn't respond right away. Then she reached out, touched his arm, and said, "We're safe. For now." He nodded, but he didn't relax. Not fully. "Do you think they'll follow again?" She leaned back, gaze distant. "Number, not yet. The resonance we used. It says, this key is broken. They will believe it." Liam frowned. "And if they don't?" She looked at him. "Then we run again, but not alone this time." They worked in silence to convert the shuttle into something livable. It wasn't luxury, more like survival with upholstery, but it had power, air, food rations, and a view of rings that would make any poet cry. Liam started mapping fragments from Rhea's mind, snatches of star charts, glyphs, memories. The vault she had mentioned, it was real, hidden, scattered across old coordinates buried deep within her biology. She was a living archive, not just of data, but of culture, emotion, soul. In those quiet hours, Liam asked more questions. She taught him how her people wove memories into skin, how light was once their primary form of communication, and how names were earned, not given. He asked what name she would give him, if she could. She paused, then whispered, "Tether." He blinked. "That sounds like a leash." "It means one who anchors, who stays even in void." Liam didn't know what to say to that, so he didn't say anything at all. Weeks passed. The shuttle became home. Liam rigged a small garden module from old filtration tubes. Raya built a rudimentary interface from scavenged components, projecting fragments of her people's architecture in soft light. Temples made from stardust and crystal logic. Cities that breathed. They laughed more. They talked less sometimes, but in ways that meant more. She learned to cook. He learned to listen. And one evening, as the moon dipped behind its gas giant and their world went dark except for starlight, Raya sat beside him and said, "You changed me." Liam looked up from his circuit repairs. "For better or worse?" She smiled, real and unguarded. "For choice. I did not know it before." He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. There would be other threats, other signals, other fragments of the past clawing their way through the future. But for now, they had found the quiet between the storms. And in that quiet, they began something new.